Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is July 13th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Take a look at across the Pacific Ocean. We got this big ridge of high pressure dominating our weather for the time being, but we got some mid-level moisture moving across the area. Got an interesting picture this morning that I'll share with you here in a moment. We'll take a look at what is to come next week and as we go through the following weekend, as well as always as we go through the video here this morning. So back things up to where we are now, and you can see the ridge of high pressure that I just talked about here dominating our weather. And watch how it gets a bit more amplified up and across the Gulf of Alaska there, and also allows this weak system to swing down across British Columbia, clipping portions of Washington as we go through the day on Monday. Scrolling back and forth, you can kind of see that moving across the region. But as we go through the day Wednesday, we're really going to ramp up the heat for some areas and kind of keep the ridging just offshore here, enough to keep things above normal. But as we go through the following weekend here, there's some sign of some troughing trying to drop down on the eastern periphery of this high pressure system. We'll look at that more here as we look at the extended forecast a little bit later in the video. But let's take a look at where we were on the day yesterday. We'll scroll through. You can kind of see the marine there burning off for some areas. There's a Chehalis Gap, Oregon, Washington coastline there burning off during the daytime for most areas. Well, I shouldn't even say most areas, because it looks like it actually got reestablished a bit here as we went through the afternoon hours for some of the Washington and Oregon coastline. And we scroll all the way back in towards this morning. You see some of the mid-level moisture moving across the region, some of that stratus layer right against the immediate coastline. And this is what I got this morning. Actually had a little bit of a mammatus cloud activity here. A little bit of cooler air sinking down makes these bulges and pouches known as mammatus clouds. And again, you can kind of see that mid-level convection moving across the region here this morning. Not enough to cause any problems or even any rainfall across the area. Maybe some virga. So take a look at the high resolution rapid refresh. You see the fire there right north of the Washington border, British Columbia. And there's actually a little fire there just near Olympia, south of Tacoma there also. I don't know much about that one just yet. But if I put this into motion and I go towards the end of the high resolution right, you notice how this starts to come back out of the northeast a little bit here as we start to turn our wind pattern back offshore as we warm up Tuesday, Wednesday, and probably Thursday as well. So we might start to introduce some smoke back across the Pacific Northwest with some of that fire activity, anything ongoing or anything that starts in the meantime, and a lot of fire smoke there across Northern California and some of the Southwest. Not that unusual for this time of the year. And there it is, that fire, British Columbia. Looks like they named it K60922 right now. But yeah, anything burning out there is going to be, it's going to have the potential to come back out across some of Southwest BC, Western Washington, maybe down towards Oregon. Now, if we take a look at the European model, I'll put this into motion. Some precipitation as we go on in through the day. Today's Sunday, and we go on in towards Monday. That system starts to drop down, bringing some thunderstorm activity with it. Will it kick off a couple lightning strikes across the Cascades? Not out of the question. And it clips northeast Washington as well, Idaho Panhandle, and some of western Montana as it continues to scroll across some of the Rocky Mountains here as you go through the day. Tuesday, again, probably some pretty prolific lightning producing storms associated with this system as we go all the way on into the day Wednesday, and it kicks off to the east. And on the day Wednesday, we're really going to ramp up the heat here across some of the region. More on that here in a moment as well. Now, what does the high resolution model say? Well, it does. It's not as bullish on the precipitation here for some of Washington State. It does show maybe a shower or two on the day Monday as that system swings by and just clips northeast Washington. Better amounts across some of the Rocky Mountains in Montana. You can also see some stronger storms develop there on Tuesday afternoon, and near Yellowstone, southwest Montana, some of eastern Idaho also. And if we go through the 6-day forecast precipitation, again, the European a little bit more bullish with the precipitation amounts kicking off a little bit across the Cascades, some of northeast Washington. But as you can see, there's nothing for Seattle, Portland, or Vancouver. The metro area is, just not a big precipitation maker. These northwest flows are not very moist, especially during the summer months for places like western Washington, western Oregon. And if we look at the 2-meter temperature anomaly, let's play through here, and you can kind of see the system move off to the east there, and that drops the temperatures with it, and then it kicks off to the east a bit more, and you can kind of see how we really warm things up as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, potentially Thursday, maybe everywhere except the very immediate coastline there, a little bit below normal. But we'll look at that more here on a daily basis. But yeah, we are going to warm up here through the early portion of next week. How long will that hold on? Still a little bit of some questions to be answered on that front. So if we take a look here at the European model, there you can see the high pressure out over the coastline. This is mean sea level pressure. And if I put that into motion, you'll notice that we start to get that higher pressure up here across British Columbia. And you notice the pressure drops a little bit here across the Oregon, Washington coast. That's what's known as that thermal trough. You can kind of see that very subtle feature feature extend up the coastline, and that's what starts to bring the offshore winds. The pressure is higher across the interior of British Columbia, and that starts to push some of these winds back out across the region, and anything is out across the atmosphere. Any kind of fire smoke also can be introduced here across western Washington. So that is a thermal trough. That is the cause of all our heat waves here for like Seattle and Portland, southwest BC, with the offshore compression winds coming off the higher terrain. Now, if we take a look at the mean sea level pressure anomaly, it actually shows the thermal trough better when you look at this map. You can see the higher pressure start to fill in again across the interior of British Columbia, and you see that thermal trough kind of move up the coastline. A very subtle feature, but that's enough to kick some offshore flow back across the area and also warm us up quite dramatically here for some locations as we go through the day on Wednesday, and maybe even keeping temperatures elevated there again on the day Thursday. So quickly here, we'll run through this, and you can kind of see as we go through the day on Wednesday, you can still see we're kind of in this offshore flow pattern. So any smoke out there, of course, is going to be brought back across some of the western areas. And as we go through Wednesday morning, look at that east flow through the gorge there and some of the offshore winds. So hopefully the fires are not burning too hot and heavy across any of the Cascades or British Columbia over the next few days. Now looking at Sunday, July 13th, daily 2-meter maximum temperature. It's where we measure the surface temperatures. Actually, it's about 4.5 feet above a grassy surface is where you're supposed to measure those temperatures. But you can see Seattle very warm today coming up. Look at this mid-90s out there. Some of southwest Oregon 105. Look at eastern Washington up over 100 degrees as well. Boise, Idaho around 100 also. We go to Monday, we cool things off with that flow, that system kind of dropping down across the region. Bit of an onshore flow still going Monday, but look how we bounce those temperatures right back there as we go through Tuesday. Look at, again, 87 for Seattle. Look at 90 showing up here for southwest BC, back into the Fraser River Valley. And yeah, warming things up. Going to be warmer west of the Cascades, for example, for Oregon versus eastern Oregon, and probably the same thing here for western Washington versus eastern Washington on the day Tuesday. And then even on Wednesday, kind of the similar pattern. Look at Portland, maybe approaching 100 degrees on the day Wednesday. Seattle up into the 90s also. Olympia south, mid-90s, and again, warmer than east of the mountains. And that is because of that offshore compressional wind warming things up in that thermal trough. We go through Thursday, and that changes up a bit here. You see the temperature start to get a bit warmer east, but still a very warm day. And when I was growing up, 88 degrees was very hot for Seattle. It's been changing over the last few decades, but yeah, you can see we're still pretty warm on the day Thursday. Look at Portland, probably low 90s. And we go through Friday, again, a very warm day for Seattle, 85 degrees, still 100 degrees for some areas, eastern Washington. Go through Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Are we going to get a little bit of a cool down next weekend? There is the potential for it. And let's take a look at some of that here right now. This is the European yesterday afternoon's run. So there is our ridge amplification. Our weak system slides by on Monday that we talked about. There goes the ridge back up into the Gulf of Alaska. But then as we go through the end of the week, you'll see that we start to bring this next trough here as we go through the day Saturday. So ridge is here, cat and mouse game. How far east will that ridge be? How much will this amplify? How much would allow this system? What kind of impacts will that have? All good questions. We'll make sure to try to answer those as we go through the upcoming weeks. You can kind of see this north-northwest flow across the Pacific Northwest here. That would be more of an onshore pattern here as we go on to the extended forecast. And this is the European ensemble. I just thought I'd show you the northern hemisphere view of our ridge amplifying across the Gulf of Alaska. It's really going to warm us up here as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then you start to get that disagreement, maybe some troughing trying to show up as we go through next weekend on the backside of that ridge. It is still amplified across the Gulf of Alaska. Now, next 15 days, the European ensemble mean, check it out. You can see that below normal signal out there and some of the above normal signal across some of the interior of British Columbia, some of the Rocky Mountains out there. GFS shows something similar here as well. Not much in the way of precipitation here over the next 16 days on this last night's GFS ensemble run. Canadian, something similar here also. Now, this is since January 1st, percent of average precipitation across the region. Some of the Oregon Cascades, southern Oregon Cascades, have been above normal, but you can see the vast majority of the Pacific Northwest has been well below normal. The Seattle Metro, for example, between 50 and 70% of normal. And again, some of the east slopes of the Cascades and North Cascades of Washington are between 25 and 50% of normal. Big precipitation deficits out there for some of the region. And this is the average temperature departure from average since January 1st as well. You can see kind of a mixed bag here since the beginning of the new year. And, coming out of a La Nina fall and winter, or close to it. Expect to be a little bit cooler than that here. A little bit of a concerning signal there. But if you go since April 1st, majority of the Pacific Northwest has been above normal temperatures. And even worse look here is the April 1st through July 11th percent of average precipitation here. I mean, what a deficit we are running for some areas of the region. And again, 5 to 25 percentile there for some of the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington. That's why drought is getting more established across the region. And here's the 6 to 10 day, and I'm gonna have to stop showing these things here because there's no sign of this really showing up here. I mean, who knows? Maybe that system will bring something, but is that going to bring above normal precipitation to western Washington? Almost certainly not. So yeah, Climate Prediction Center has some work to do with our weather here across the Pacific Northwest. 8 to 14 day there above normal. And again, kind of this mixed bag here, not really telling us much. But anyway, I am back home. I should be doing my daily briefings here. We'll check out what's to come. Hope you guys are having a good day otherwise, and I will talk to you guys later.